Peace. Today's mathematics is wisdom, which is a number 2. And today I want to elaborate a little bit on what that means in part. And I always say in part because these perspectives are really inexhaustible. You may see things one way today, but then see a different perspective of it tomorrow, and then maybe 5 or 10 years from now. So that constant growth of development is always important in terms of learning more so that you have the propensity to grow. Wisdom, like I mentioned in many videos, represents right discernment or right judgment. And in order to rightly judge anything, it hinges upon how much we know. So the less that we know, or the less aware that we are, the less capacity that we have to make wise decisions or to rightly discern anything. The relationship between wisdom and legal geography is important. Now, legal geography, by definition, means that it's impossible to understand a law, a policy, even a social norm without understanding the psychological, social, political, as well as economic conditions that help produce that law or that policy or those social norms. And it's important because a lot of times people look at things in a vacuum. And when people are looking at things in a vacuum, usually it's because they are ignoring certain information or certain knowledge, or they are just completely unaware of other things that were going on around this law that was created or this policy that was created or even these social norms. So what do I mean by all of this? Take an artist today like Sexy Red. Sometimes people look at an artist like Sexy Red and just assume that she is who she is. She determines the music that she makes or the content that she puts out or her visuals in her videos or the way that she crafts her performances on stage is just solely based upon her. And they don't consider all of the other different conditions around her, the psychological, the social, the political, and the economic conditions that play a role in producing this artist known as Sexy Red. And because of that, you have some people that simply look at her without considering the fact that, hey, she is a descendant of an industry that has been particularly produced to take advantage of rap artists. And this is when rap music became commercialized and separated from the culture of hip hop as a singular element in order to make money for these major record companies who were signing these artists to these 360 deals and basically controlling their intellectual property, which means that they don't have that same freedom of expression that we had when hip hop culture was first created and how that element of rap music was a part of that free expression of that culture. So if you're not considering all of those elements, it's impossible to properly discern what you're seeing with this artist that we know as Sexy Red. It's the same thing when you look at laws. You look at the Emancipation Proclamation as it relates to the ending or the abolition of slavery here in this country. And you see some people and they just look at Abraham Lincoln and they say, well, Abraham Lincoln freed the slaves, which is not true. The Emancipation Proclamation specifically targeted those southern states that seceded from the Union, so it didn't even apply to some of these other states. And at the same time, when you look at Abraham Lincoln and his campaign prior to him becoming president, he promoted colonialism. He promoted a Back to Africa and Central America movement for people of African descent. He also did not believe that people of African descent or black people were equal to white people. He did not believe that black people should have the right to vote, nor to serve as a jurist in legal matters, nor should black people intermarry with white people. These are all documented public records of the way that he stood. And he also said that if it meant saving the Union to not liberate a person that was enslaved, that he would maintain slavery if it meant maintaining this union. He also said that if it was up to him to save the union, to abolish slavery, he would do that. And then also, if it meant saving the union, if he kept some people enslaved and liberated others, he would do that. He was a union man. But in order to understand the law of emancipation or the law of that proclamation, you have to be able to look at all of the other conditions that produced it from a psychological, a social, political, as well as economic perspective. That's wisdom. That's rightly discerning. the things that we're looking at, because nothing actually happens in a vacuum. So the relationship of wisdom hinges upon our ability to look at things through the lens of legal geography, understanding that no laws, no policies, no social norms actually occur without understanding the different conditions, whether the psychological, the social, the political, and the economic conditions that produce these laws, that produce these policies, that produce these social norms, because it gives us a wider perspective of what things actually are. And if they're not serving our purpose in an equitable way, what things need to be. So I will that this was inspiring, it was empowering, it was educational, and just gave those of you some perspective on wisdom as it relates to legal geography. Peace.